Hello guys, welcome back to another Linktree training video. In this one we're going to be doing in-depth stock analysis on both CRVS and HLBZ, which are the leading gaps today, with CRVS being up 135% and HLBZ being up 96% on the day. So firstly on CRVS, is there any gaps to be filled? Looking at this, we can see there is no gaps to be filled apart from the recently created one on this recent gap. So no gaps to be looking at to be filled apart from the one made. So then we go over to the standard deviations and see what's happening with that. And you'll see something very surprising, you hardly ever see it, whether that's a small cap or large cap stock, but it's that it's actually closed above the fourth deviation on both the daily and the 4 hour. This you hardly ever see because it means a stock is very overbought. So that's what we're seeing on CRVS right now, as it's above this red line here and this red line here. It's considered highly risky to be long right now. I mean, if you were to get long now, very likely that you would lose money. So when looking at this, we are instantly bearish on the stock. However, yes, we are bearish on it, but are we going to trade it bearishly? Probably not. For the main reason being, if it's already been able to close outside of this fourth deviation, it's not trading with sense. So it just means it's a very risky one to trade. So what I will do is provide some price targets, but it's not something I would personally trade for that reason. So all we really need to look at is areas where we would get bounces, would be each of these main deviations. So those are the key things I would personally be looking out for, because it's most likely where we would get bounces. So that's 511, 475, 430, 405, 360, and 340. Those will be those key areas where, when it does eventually kind of turn over, which we will hopefully see Monday, these are areas where we'll most likely get bounces off, if not a reversal to carry on higher. So key areas to definitely look out for. Then the key thing as well to also be looking out for is when we can close below this 273/284. This could be done probably on a 15-minute chart would be sufficient, and when you get that close below there, most likely the move will be ending, and you'll most likely see a move continue down to 225 to fill that gap. So that's kind of it on CRVS. Not something I'm personally going to be trading for the reason that it's just not trading with any sense at all. So now we're going to go over HLBZ, which is trading let's say a bit more normally, but is still also trading a bit like CRVS in that it's a very crazy move, and again something you don't see often. So the gappers are very crazy today. And again, is there any gaps to be filled? We can see no, there's not. There was one here that was filled, and again we had one here, but again that has been filled. So the only one we got is the most recently made gap, which will be 895 to 1515 roughly. So that is the area we'll be looking at. This gap will most likely get filled. So we are bearish on this stock because obviously we expect to see it back around that $9 mark. Now we'll go over to the standard deviation channels and actually see where we're most likely to get reversals and or bounces. So let's zoom in so we can get a bit clearer of a target. If we're on the daily deviations, we have targets at around 1060, 1155, 1250 and 1350. These are all areas when we're coming down, we'll most likely get bounces, and then the same thing, 4 hours are just as important, and that would be 1450, 1320, 1190, and the 1060 is kind of at the same level. So if we actually quickly go onto a daily chart, we can actually see how it reacted to the levels intraday. And actually we can see it hasn't really touched them because it traded so extremely. However, you do see the morning pullback. Once it opened, pulled back to that fourth deviation before continuing higher. So what it does show us is, if you are looking at it intraday, that it was trading quite crazy, and that it most likely was going to continue on for the day, because that's what you see. If you see a bounce off the deviation and get a strong bounce off, it will most likely not be bearish on that day, so it's a good thing to stay away from it. So now if we quickly turn on after hours, we can kind of see as well how it's moving after hours, and you'll see that it's now starting to break down to our deviation again, and after hours we're kind of closing within this area. So what that means is on Monday we'll be looking at if we can start closing below $15. If we can start closing below $15, this move is most likely done. The key level will kind of be this 1350 to around 1320. The reason for that is the third deviation is where you kind of see if a stock's going to go higher, that's usually that bounce area to be looking out for. So if at 1350 to 1320 it can close below, then most likely the move is finished and we can see it coming down to fill the gap all the way down to about $9. However, if it comes down to this 1350, struggles to break through and we start getting some closes above that 1350, then it wouldn't be unlikely for it to actually break into a newer high, or maybe get a smaller dead cat kind of bounce. But again, a bit like I said on CRVS, if a stock ends up closing above the fourth deviation on either the daily or the 4 hour, it's not something I trade because then the risk is just very high. Yes, you could be shorting it, more likely to make money, but if the stock's closing outside of the fourth deviation, it's not trading with any sense. And you'll see with any of these gappers that if they go out of the fourth deviation, they come back very quickly. Here, came back instantly. Here again, came back instantly. And you'll probably see that on CRVS if it has done that in the past. We haven't broken out of the fourth, but if you see we come into the second, instantly sell off. So when stocks do this, it's very risky to kind of trade them, unless you're maybe looking for intraday scalps at those deviation levels. So hope you like the breakdown on both CRVS and HLBZ. If you like the video, definitely drop a like and subscribe, and hope to see you in the next one. Peace.